money, your taxes, your truck, and your road to success in the trucking industry. This is Trucking Business and Beyond, the show that puts the money where it belongs, back in your pocket.
Good morning, you beautiful bunch of fuckers, and welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Thursday, June 13th. We are here live. It is time for a free-for-all. We've got an hour this morning, so we're opening the phone lines right now. Go ahead and start dialing. We will get to your calls here as soon as they start coming in. Looks like we've got some coming in now. Hit that call now button if you're listening on the app, or pick up the phone. Dial 855-950-3835. I have just a couple things I want to talk about while we're screening some calls there, so go ahead and line them up. Watching the economy again, we still have a lot of mixed signs. Inflation is still going up. Interest rates, I think the Fed's going to hold them steady for right now, so we're not going to see any drop in interest rates. A lot of mixed signals, but the mixed signals seem to be turning worse. A lot more people now predicting that it may be a real estate kind of crash that sets this off. We're kind of waiting for that one big event that kind of really puts us into a recession. It's not that we want one, but it almost feels like they're necessary, and we haven't had one in a long time. So what is it going to be? Is it going to be the stock market, the real estate market? Almost all the signals are pretty mixed. I've compared it many times to the 70s when we had stagflation, a very, very slow economy, high unemployment. Finding a job then was next to impossible. But yet we had those crazy high interest rates and a very slow economy. It was actually a term called stagflation at the time. And some economists are saying we could kind of be falling into that again. Yeah. Something a little on the lighter side, it's starting to feel a lot like the 70s. If you were around back then, you'll remember this. Sometime during that decade, I can't remember exactly when it was, early, I think, it seemed like we had that year or two of the disaster movies. Do you remember those? Towering Inferno, The Poseidon Adventure, Earthquake. That was like the theme for movies in the 70s, were these just disaster movies, except this time they're not movies. It seems like a lot of the news right now is like disaster-level stuff, and it all seems to be happening at once. And I've been reading books about it. Nobody's really made... Well, there was the movie about the EMP that got a lot of attention for a while, but that kind of died off pretty quick. Several books that I've read that are written as novels, but are written as historically true about what is going on right now. I talked about the one I just read recently, Nuclear War. There was one I read earlier this year that was about, with all the invaders that have crossed our southern border, millions of people, and they're still coming across every single day, thousands of them a day. Many of them are what they refer to as young males of fighting age. One of the novels that I read, but again, written as historically kind of factual, is about, are those sleeper cells being formed now in the U.S. for some sort of an internal attack like Israel just had? That's a possibility. I follow the sun weather guy. I've talked about this, and I've followed this stuff for years, over a decade, on the solar flares and watching that kind of thing. And we have some strange stuff going on now with the Earth and the sun. Our poles are moving. Our magnetic poles, the magnetic north and south poles, are moving. And that sounds weird. What does that mean? How does the pole move? Well, the true North Pole, the very top and bottom of the Earth, North and South Pole, they're still where they've always been, but we have a magnetic pole. And it's kind of important. I guess we don't really think about it because it really has never moved in our lifetime. It's moved in the past, way in the past. And when you look, it coincides with some pretty massive shifts in what happens to the planet. That's happening now. The poles have been moving 20 some miles a year since 2020, and they're still moving. We just had some reports here. I don't know if you saw this or not, these giant sunfish that are washing up on shores. Remember, we had the issue on the East Coast with marine life ending up on the beaches. This is becoming common, and it has to do with the pole shift. Many of the animals on the planet migrate using those magnetic signals, and that's what's happening to these sunfish. They're following a magnetic signal that is putting them up on the beach instead of getting them to where they need to be. And we're seeing more and more of this. The other thing we have to worry about with that pole shift, the biggest danger to humans, now we have to worry about animals going extinct, things like that. The biggest danger to humans is if the poles moving themselves don't have a whole lot of impact on humans. What we're worried about is the electrical grid. And at the same time, the poles are moving, which gives us protection from energy blasts coming off the sun, CMEs. Now, at the same time, the poles are moving and we don't have as much protection. We now have a much more active solar weather pattern for some reason. This is causing earthquakes, they're talking about. And now they're talking about a big fault line off of California that is showing some increased activity, and that could be the big one for the West Coast. We have, I don't know if anybody's paying attention to this or not, Russian warships 25 miles off the coast of Florida and docking in Cuba. See, again, here we go, the 70s, 60s, 70s. I grew up with the Cuban Missile Crisis. It kind of looks like we're going to have another Cuban Missile Crisis. We have Russia kind of taunting the U.S. What else did we have? It's hard to keep up with it all, honestly. We have probably the goofiest presidential election in my lifetime by far. How do you even describe it? If you want to be funny, we have a senile old man with dementia and a convicted felon. 300 million people, these are our best options. It's a very, very strange time. And it almost feels like we're kind of sitting back just waiting for something to happen. I've even said I would be very, very careful about making big financial decisions right now. I'm helping some people buy trucks and get their authority, but when we look at their finances, it's not a big financial stretch for them either way. Even if the economy were to really tank, it still wouldn't be that big of a deal. But I'm becoming much, much more cautious. I did a podcast yesterday with David Owen. It was kind of an interesting podcast. Dave and I are doing a podcast every month now. We just started last month. This one was our second. And we don't plan anything. No topics. We don't talk about anything ahead of time. Our method of doing this, actually, it's kind of fun. David does his new entrant survival training every month. It's a great class for people joining NASTC. You spend a day down there. You learn a lot about NASTC's programs, good information. He does that every month. And we've decided that week, he does his training on Friday. That week on Wednesday, when I get off the air, David calls me. And that's it. That's our podcast. He calls me on the phone. He hits record, and we start talking, just like we've been doing for about a year and a half now, just having conversations about whatever pops up. It's mostly about trucking most of the time. Once in a while, we get off on some tangents that are kind of fun. Yesterday, and it just kind of happened that way, we spent most of the podcast talking about Buster, David's long time co-founder. I mean, it's such a great story. David tells it. We talked a little bit about it yesterday on the podcast. If you haven't heard it, I'll give you the quick version. David and Buster worked at Comdata together. Buster was what they would have called inside sales. He did the sales work on phone calls. He would call and cold call and find prospects and then set up appointments for an outside salesperson to go meet them in person. And David was the outside salesperson. David was their number one seller by far. Moved all the way up to national accounts. And honestly, when he got to national accounts, he really didn't like it because it was bigger fleets. And he decided to leave and start NASTIC. He had an idea. He had a bunch of notes. The problem was Buster had left Comdata prior to that, and David didn't know where he went. Now, it wasn't like today where you could just go on social media and find somebody pretty quickly. Back then, we're talking the 80s, it was pretty hard to find somebody. If you didn't know where they might have moved or where they lived, I mean, short of hiring a private detective, it wasn't easy. And David had this idea to start, but he really wanted Buster as a partner. And he was working through his ideas, and his wife, Bonnie, was at home. And I don't think he had talked to Buster in over a year at this point. Bonnie was at home. She gets a phone call, a telemarketer selling carpet cleaning services. And as she's listening to this, she recognizes the voice, and she asks the guy's name, and it turns out it was Buster. Just a random, he didn't realize he was calling David's house or talking to his wife. And they made the connection, and Bonnie said, David really needs to talk to you. And that's how NASTIC got started in 1989. Buster just recently passed away last week, and it was somewhat unexpected. He had actually gone in for some surgery. They were very optimistic about the surgery. Everything went well. They thought it was really going to solve some issues he was having, and he went home, and a couple days later died in his sleep. So David and I spent most of the hour kind of memorializing and telling Buster stories, and there were a lot of them. So I don't know when they release their podcast. I know they have a specific day, but I'm not sure what it is. All right, let me look at my notes. I don't have anything else. I think we're going to get to some phone calls. We've got about 45 minutes. I've got a couple calls on the board. I can certainly fit some more in. Jump in and join us, 855-950-3835. If you are watching on the live stream, you can call that number. If you're listening on the app, you can hit the call now button. Good morning, everybody on the chat there. Let's get to some phone calls. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Wade, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Good to talk to you again. I haven't called in a while, but I'm one of the guys that listens to you and Dave Ramsey exclusively.
Well, thank you. But I'm in good company, that's for sure.
Hey, you guys actually run almost identical shows. His show is almost 100% call-based as well, so it's kind of funny. It's it's just nice hearing real people's situations discussed in front of everybody. So
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's kind of, I mean, it's why I do the show that I do. I've talked about the fact that I really started listening to Bruce Williams. When I first started driving, I started listening to talk, because you can only, I love music. You can only listen to so much music. Back then, I loved listening to audiobooks, but they were really expensive. And I would get as many as I could from the library, but I spent a lot of money on audiobooks. And then I was still looking for something interesting for all that time in the truck, and I found talk radio. And I found a local channel back then that had a pretty interesting format. In the morning, they had a guy on who was pretty liberal, and then right after him, they had a guy on who was pretty conservative. And it was an interesting counterpoint, but I get pretty tired of political talk pretty quick. I mean, I can listen to it for a while, but I was never a big fan of any of the political talk shows. And I'm still not today. I'll tune in once in a while if it's a really interesting topic, but I can't listen to politics all day long. And political shows tend to just be the host and maybe some guests here and there. Bruce Williams was 100% caller, and I might be wrong about this, but I don't think I am. I don't think Bruce Williams ever had a guest on his show. Now, that seems like an odd statement because he was on for several decades, but I do not remember him ever having a guest on the show. It was just pure caller driven. He would do a very short monologue at the beginning, go right to calls, and his show was kind of similar in that he could answer all kinds of business questions, real estate questions, financial questions, and I got hooked on that. And then I found, other shows similar, certainly Dave Ramsey's. That is the format I really like. I find that very interesting to listen to other people. And, the statistics are that it is a tiny, tiny percentage of the people who listen to talk shows that call in. And most people say, look, I learned so much just from listening to what everybody else asks. And then I tell the story, and people usually don't believe it, but all those years listening to Bruce Williams, I can remember about 3 times where I actually picked up the phone, dialed the number, talked to the call screener, and before Bruce could come and pick me up and take my call, I would panic and hang up. I was afraid to go on the air. I think about that now, and I think, how stupid was that? But I would be like sweating and almost having a panic attack about going on the air and talking to this guy. And I thought, that's crazy. But those are the statistics. It's a very small percentage of the callers that actually call in, or the listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason I'm calling you today, I had shared with you before I got hooked on Dave Ramsey. I was listening to you, and you recommended anybody looking to buy a truck, get started on his book and his program, the finances in order. So that's how I kind of got hooked on his show. So baby step 1 and 2 is, you save the first initial $1,000 just for little ankle biter emergencies. And then baby step 2 is where you basically tackle all of your consumer debt other than your mortgage. And my wife and I actually worked all the way through those first 2 baby steps without making a single purchase from him. So a lot of people claim that he's making money on people who are in a bad situation, but truthfully, you don't need to buy anything from him to get all of his information to succeed. Now later after that, we're not fully paid off on our mortgage yet, but since then we did go through his course. We took my sister-in-law through as a graduation present when she graduated college.
Oh, great. Hey, that's awesome.
We'll give you $100 cash, no strings attached, or we'll double that and buy your course for you if you're willing to spend the 9 weeks going through it.
Awesome.
We'll double your graduation gift.
Yeah.
So we paid the $90 course fee plus an extra $100 cash in an envelope for her to go through.
I love that.
Incentivized her to go through it.
What a great gift. Hey, I want to go back before I forget, and I'll come back and let you finish, but I want to go back because I want to talk about this point. The first point that you can absolutely, honestly, it's not that hard to get every bit of Dave's advice free. It's out there. You could get a book from the library, honestly. I mean, if you have no cash, you could still learn just about everything you need from him. He puts out a lot of free material. There's lots of ways to access it. But something you said, people criticize him because he takes money from people in a bad situation. Would it be better if he just ignored them and didn't do this?
that's that's the way I think about it. I think, you know, how bad off would these people be if Dave Ramsey didn't exist?
Well,
You know, where would I be today
is
if,
it
you know, if you hadn't known the name Dave Ramsey to recommend to me? I'd still be in a worse off position than I am today. So thankfully, he is taking money from people who don't have a lot of money, because he's still in business and able to provide the information to me.
Here's the way I look at it. Have you ever seen his building in Nashville? Beautiful place.
Oh yeah, I've been there several times.
Oh, have you really? Oh, beautiful place, right? I
Yeah.
love that. You know what that tells me? When I see that big, beautiful, multi-million-dollar building and the company that he's built, first off, he employs an awful lot of people. He pays an awful lot of taxes. That's capitalism. That's what makes our country work. But more than that, here's what I see. I see millions of people who have a better financial life. That's the only way that building exists. People had a problem and they paid some money to Dave Ramsey to solve their problem. The more successful he is, the more successful an awful lot of other people are. That's the way I look at this. First off, we are better off that he is there doing what he does. Second, does anybody expect him to do it for free?
Yeah.
Why are people?
I certainly don't.
Why have we created such a and I'm not even going to call it generational anymore, because I hear people my age talk like this now. Why does anybody believe they are entitled to anything I create without paying me for it? If I choose to charge, because I give away an awful lot of stuff that I put a lot of work and time into. But I'll be honest, I do it for a reason. That's marketing. That's really what it is. I mean, I don't do it just out of the generation, you know, the generosity of my heart. I do it because I understand it's a good business model. You help people, you give them some things. One, it shows them the value that you have. They don't have to guess. And two, it brings people in and gets them interested, and then they'll either stay or they won't. Hopefully they buy something from me, because if they don't, I won't be here doing this at some point. I don't understand why we think it is so bad that somebody charges people for something.
Right. So I was on a space with some of the tribe members the other day. I wasn't a speaker, but I was just there. I like tuning into those. There's always a lot of good information, and just trucker talk is awesome to be around. So there was some people talking about how to get prepared for, you know, owning a truck, and Dave Ramsey's name came up, which I thought, hey, that's great. That's how I got into this.
Yeah.
And then there was another person on there that said, Dave Ramsey is only for people who are really bad at handling money. If you're good at handling money, there's a lot of other strategies that you should use and move on to at some point. And I just wanted to share some of my results and ask you the question: at what point should I jump ship on Dave Ramsey and go find somebody else, maybe Robert Kiyosaki or Grant Cardone? You know, these guys have been going highly into debt. So I have some numbers here, if you don't mind me getting into them.
Well, let me, just because you brought up two specific names, that makes it really easy for me to answer. I would never jump ship and follow those two guys. I don't like either one of them.
Yeah, I don't either. They both are a little bit annoying. Their personalities are annoying to me.
That whole, we're going to crush it, we're going to 10X everything, that's Grant Cardone's whole shtick. It's this extreme. We're going to crush everything. We're going to be billionaires. I'm going to show you how to 10X your sales in 10 days. That kind of stuff makes me crazy. First off, it doesn't work. That's not how business works. It's not how money works. There's no big, quick, overnight successes. I hate all this extreme language. And here's what I would say. Follow your own gut and your own instincts. And I think you already had some feelings about these two guys.
So we started working Dave Ramsey in January of 2016. So when we started, our net worth in thousands. So when I give these numbers, it'll be thousands.
Okay.
Our net worth in each year after that, it started at 25, 58, 102, 142, 204, 317, 416, 439. As of this past January, it was 546, and as of right now, it's roughly 620. So I'm just wondering.
I just want to make sure
should I jump
doing
ship
this
or
right.
should I not?
600.
Because this apparently is not for people who are like me doing well.
620,000.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, this is a really good point. Why would
I'm a truck driver. My wife is a registered nurse.
This is a really good point. Why would you jump ship? What is wrong with that kind of growth? Is fantastic.
All of his videos in the comment sections, and then I just heard it on this space. I'm like, this seems to be a common theme. People think they're smarter than somebody who is getting excellent results. He has results, studying best practices. I want to follow somebody who's doing what I want to do. He's debt free. That's where I want to be. If you want to be $1 billion in debt, then you should go follow Robert Kiyosaki. But if you want to be debt free and live a wealthy lifestyle, then Dave Ramsey's the guy to follow. I'm not saying Dave Ramsey is the only possible way to ever get to over $1 million or $10 million net worth, but it's the path. It's not just for people who are $100,000 in credit card debt. It's a path for those people to get out of credit card debt, but it's not just for them. It's not at all. They should leave Dave Ramsey once they're debt free. And it's just a common theme, but there's no way to do, well, there is a way to do more, but there's no way to do more without more risk. And risk is something that I'm looking to keep out of my life. That's
what I was just going to comment on. Here's the thing I can say about Dave Ramsey, hands down. You can argue a lot of things. You can't argue this one. He has a path and a plan that is virtually risk-free. And that's almost unheard of with money, but his is almost risk-free. That's his whole point. He takes out almost all of the risk. That's a good thing. Now, at some point, and this is why I kind of said, trust your own gut. At some point, you might stray a little from some of those guidelines. No matter how much I stray from them, I never once claimed they're wrong. I've claimed that this is the best method I've ever found. Why would we look for anything else? This works really well. It's easy. It's easy to understand. It's hard to do because it's money. You got to sacrifice, but it's easy to understand what you're supposed to do. There's nothing complicated about it. We're not talking about investing in precious metals and stock splits and options and all these other, we're not trying to 10x anything. It's very straightforward. It's proven. It works. Now, I've even talked about the places where I've strayed away from those guidelines. I have a mortgage that I didn't have to have. I could have paid that mortgage. I still could. And I could be completely debt-free. I choose not to because my mortgage is in the 2.7, and the savings now are earning 5. I mean, to me, that's just math, and there's no risk because if something really went wrong, I would just take the money out of savings, pay off the mortgage. But for now, it makes sense to me to do it the way I'm doing it. I'm generating a little more revenue this way. We have taken some business loans occasionally. Right now, the company is completely debt-free. That's not always the case. There are times when we take some operational loans, but it makes sense when we do it, and I'm very careful. Would I do it right now? Hell no. No, I prefer right now that the company is debt-free. I'm worried about our economy. Our sales are down like everybody else's. Our costs are up. So we're getting much more conservative. But there have been times in our history where we borrowed some money to grow or start a new project. I am okay. We do it business-wise and personal-wise. We buy almost everything on credit cards, business and personal. They get paid off every single month. We never carry a balance. We do it for points. And we get a lot of points, and there is a benefit to doing that. Again, there's no risk. I'm not carrying a bunch of balances that would crush me if something happened. The balances we carry, we can pay off every month, and we do. So those are two things you'll never hear Dave Ramsey recommend anybody do. But I'm smart enough to know I can trust my own instincts. I'm not taking a whole lot of risk doing this.
Yeah,
I think
and that's what, like, I don't. Whenever somebody mentions those things to me, I never look at those things like they're over the top dumb. I don't. I'm just
right.
The point he makes about them is those things are maybe like 1 to 2% of the overall picture. They're
Correct.
not the difference maker. They're nice.
Exactly.
They're small benefits, and he's not negating the fact that they may be a benefit, but he's saying, like, at the end of your life, if you look at your net worth, credit card points are not even going to show up on
Correct.
there as far as what
he's
they
absolutely
contributed.
right. He's
and
absolutely
that's what a lot
correct.
of people get hung up on that and say, well, wealthy people don't leave anything on the table, and
that's not true either.
It's a little, but
that's not a true statement. I would consider myself wealthy. We don't have
of
to
course,
get. Yeah, I would consider myself wealthy. You'd be shocked at how much I leave on the table. I do not obsess over money. I waste a lot of money. I really do. I'm not all that disciplined in my spending. But I'm still wealthy, and I've said before that money is not a big enough motivator for me. And that's why I can leave it on the table. It doesn't bother me a bit. Money's just not important enough to me that I want to collect a bunch and hoard it. My goal is always to be financially comfortable, not to be outrageously wealthy. I mean, I could, honestly, I don't think it would be hard for me to double my net worth in the next 5 years if I chose to. But I don't want to. I don't want to do what it would take to do that. That money is no longer enough of a motivator for me. I'd rather just be happy. And I'm comfortable with the amount of money I have. And I pay attention. I'm not going to let it, in a danger zone in a bad economy. I've cut back my spending. But to say wealthy people never leave anything on the table, that's bullshit. They do all the time. I know I just happen to know lots of wealthy people because I deal with a lot of small businesses, and I know the owners, and I know how they live. It is not all that different. And when it comes right down to it, at some point, they do leave a lot on the table. Now, there are other people who obsess over that bottom line number, and all they care about is that their net worth gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and they have more and more and more money. That just doesn't appeal to me.
Right. Yeah, we're about 6 months out right now on our final baby step, paying off the house. Will be done by Christmas time, and that's
Awesome.
what we're working towards at the moment. And anybody has any comments about that, that come up to us, we just nod and smile, and
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
But
How I don't.
We have our vision, and we know what we're looking to do. We want the peace in our life. We want to know that nobody can influence us to do what we don't want to do. We don't have to keep jobs if we don't want to keep jobs, and that's our ultimate goal.
Isn't it incredible? So I'm looking back at your numbers when your net worth was $25,000, and now it's $620,000. It's hard to describe to people what a difference that does in your mindset, right? I mean, if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to tell people how it changes the way you view the world.
And I'm 32, just so everybody knows as well.
Congratulations. That's incredible. And
so,
I just want to point out to
people shake their head and they look at me. They look at me funny when I say, at retirement, I have, I'm estimating to be worth about 15 million at retirement, and people kind of give you a stupid look, and they're like, this dumb kid.
Oh, wait a minute. That's not even
unattainable.
It's barely a stretch.
If I let my retirement accounts go right now and I don't contribute another penny for the rest of my life, those alone are going to be 5 million.
Yes,
So,
that's kind of what I was looking at.
15 million is a short shot, but it's fun to run numbers through calculators. If when I pass away, if I have $25 million, what that turns into by the time my grandkids retire is mind-boggling. Like, we're talking ridiculous amounts of money. Like 25 million when my grandkids retire is approaching $1 billion.
It is right. It's kind of crazy when you start seeing what happens with these numbers as they get bigger and bigger. What you're talking about is building generational wealth, and you started from nothing.
Yes.
And I want to remind people, you went from a $25,000 net worth to a $620,000 net worth. You're in your early 30s, and you did it strictly with Dave Ramsey's instructions, right? You just followed his plan.
Yes, that's correct.
That's it. That's all it takes. That and the discipline to follow the plan. That's what most people are missing. The plan's simple. And like I said, you could access all of his information for free. And if you follow the plan, this is what happens. It is just math. Here's the biggest difference between Dave Ramsey and almost everybody else that teaches financial planning of any kind. Almost every financial planner I know, they're just mathematicians. It's all about math. And they'll show you, oh, no, look, if you spend money on that credit card and you get these points, look, it's math. You have more money. Look, if you have a low mortgage and you invest it at a little bit higher, look, you have more money. Those are all math problems. And they're right. You can't argue math. What they're missing, and what Dave Ramsey addresses better than anybody, and his program addresses it, it's the human emotion. That's the difference that people don't understand. They don't understand how their emotions are driving their decisions.
20% math, 80% behavior.
Yes.
Is the key to success.
Yes, that's big. And most financial planners are 100% math. And it's hard to argue against them because math is math. They are correct. I get it. When you tell me, no, look, here's a way they could have had even more money. Except it doesn't work in the real world because of human emotion. You know, one of the best examples of this, and I've seen statistics, I haven't looked for them for a while, but I used to see this all the time when I would look. One of the pieces of advice you will get from financial planners is if you're going to start investing in the stock market, and we're not talking about what I might recommend or what Dave Ramsey might recommend, dollar cost averaging into indexed mutual funds. These are people that are talking about like day trading kind of stuff. You know, you're going to trade stocks and make millions of dollars. And what they'll tell people is you should start a practice account. There are even coaches out there that help you. They give you a practice account. They have you make all these trades, and you have to make decisions. Am I going to buy this stock today? Am I going to sell this one today? And you practice. You just pretend you're making these trades, and you keep track of it. And then at some point, when you feel confident that you understand all this, you go do it with real money. You know what happens almost every time? It's like 90+%. The people never generate the same results when they're trading real money as they did when they were practicing. When they were practicing, they were actually successful in making money. When real money starts changing hands, they fall apart and their results are horrendous most of the time.
Because they feel the risk.
That's it. That's the only thing that changed. The math is the math. Why are they making such poor decisions all of a sudden? Because now it's real money and there's human emotions. Dave Ramsey understands that better than anybody.
Yep, I feel there's something to be opened up in the human mind. Like I'm striving to get to debt free, and I feel there's going to be something that clicks in my brain when I get there that's going to change other things that may end up benefiting me more than what that difference in interest rate between my mortgage and my savings account.
Right.
Now, that's not across the board for everybody, but I feel that's what I'm trying to get to. And I feel when I can eliminate the risk of my mortgage, when I know I don't have to wake up today and go to work because someone told me I have to. The bank is telling me in a roundabout way, they're telling me, get your ass to work because you owe us money this month.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I want to get rid of that. I don't want any man telling me that I have to get out. I'll do what I want to do.
When way back when I first,
I want to.
Well, I'm probably not going to remember the exact wording, but way back when I was going through this and setting financial goals, my goals were not the typical, well, I want $1.5 million by this time, and I want my net worth to be this by this. I didn't have any of those. My goal was much more vague and generic. And I do better with big picture concepts than I do with day-to-day detail stuff. So my big picture concept on financial planning was simple. I want to accumulate enough wealth, a large enough net worth, that I get to a point while I'm still healthy and young and active that I can do whatever I want, wherever I want, whenever I want, with whoever I want, and not have to worry about the money part.
That's excellent.
That was just,
right,
that
man,
was
I'm
my
let
goal.
You go so you can get on to. Sorry to hold everybody up today.
No, don't be sorry. It's one of the best conversations I've had. I love talking about this kind of stuff. I think more and more people will benefit if we talk about this more. Money, investments, finance, retirement. It's one of the topics I'd love to talk about. Don't get enough calls about it. Yours was excellent. Thank you. Let's go to Pennsylvania. Lee, welcome to the program.
Hey, I just wanted to call. Oh, well, first, real quick, the caller before you, I'm just going to follow the trend. I'm from Pennsylvania, 32. I'm following Dave Ramsey's plan. Been listening to him for probably over a year, dedicatedly.
Awesome.
In your podcast, I drive 11 hours a day. So
nice.
Literally, like, that's all I listen to is you and Dave.
Nice.
And everything you guys talk about, I agree with. And it's just exciting to hear people talk about it because I listen to you all the time and I just never call in myself. But
well, thanks for calling today.
My main question today is my husband and I, we're going to be buying a truck here in the next week or two, depending on how quickly we hear from other things following that.
Is this your first truck?
It'll be our first truck buying, yes.
Okay.
He mainly had a question about warranties. Are buying warranties on used trucks worth it?
No.
Okay.
No. This is one of those.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, people would say, oh, Kevin, you just talked about minimizing risk, and you're so big on minimizing risk. Why wouldn't you want a warranty? Because warranties don't minimize risk. If it actually did, I might be interested. But here's what I found.
I don't even know how much they are or what they cover.
Well, and that's all over the board. Here's what I will say. If I'm buying a brand new truck, I will sometimes, it just depends. I might buy a bigger extended warranty from the manufacturer. I've done it sometimes, other times I don't. I'm kind of in the middle on that one. And honestly, I can tell you this. There was one time that it paid off for me. And all the other times I actually lost money. And I track this kind of stuff. I mean, that's the whole point. Why would I care about a warranty if I end up spending more money than I ever got back from it? That's what I mean. It really didn't minimize risk. So, but we like that feeling of, boy, if the worst scenario happens, somebody's there to save me. Yeah, but the worst case scenario usually doesn't happen. So we're better off just keeping the money in our own pocket. Here's one of the biggest reasons I don't like them. And it's hard to get across to people. What are you going to do if you pay for the warranty, your truck breaks, and you're in the shop, and the warranty company says, sorry, we don't cover that because of X? And that happens a lot. And people say, no, they told me it covers it. That salesperson can tell you all kinds of things. Go read the damn contract. and read it and understand it. And if you don't understand it, pay an attorney to understand it. Now you just added to your cost again. And your attorney's probably going to tell you there's lots of ways out for them. If let's say, let's go real world now. Let's say that there's absolutely something in the contract that they are supposed to cover. It's clear, it's black and white. Our attorney says, yes, they're supposed to cover this. What are you going to do if they say no?
Right.
And people don't think about that. Well, they can't say no, it's in the contract. Sure, they can say no all day long, and they will. And what are you going to do when they say no? Well, I'll sue them. Okay, good luck. That's expensive, time-consuming, and you talk about risk. Your odds of winning any of these kind of lawsuits are slim to none. And you've just complicated your life. You've spent more money. Now you're paying attorneys. Now you're taking people to court. And it happens, these companies. Let's think about this. Let's make it a math problem. We were just talking about Dave Ramsey. You can't argue with math. If a company, because we have to pay somebody else for this warranty, right?
Yes.
The only way this warranty would make sense for us is if the company giving us the warranty has to pay out more in repairs than we paid in premiums, right? That's the only time we win. Wouldn't that be correct?
Yeah.
So more people buying warranties have to lose than win, or the warranty company couldn't stay in business. Do we ever think about that?
No, most people probably don't.
If everybody that buys a warranty wins, the warranty company is out of business.
Yeah.
Not only do they have to spend less on repairs for our truck than we paid them in premiums, it has to be a lot less. They have buildings and rent and utilities and employees and all of those expenses. They now have to collect enough in premiums, not just to cover all the repairs they have to pay for, to cover all of their other expenses and generate a profit. How does this make sense?
Yeah. And then I guess the follow-up question then is, we have obviously some money set aside for our down payment, and then like to kind of have like a starter like truck maintenance fund. Do you have a recommendation on like what that maintenance fund should be just starting out, or is it just whatever we feel comfortable with?
Mostly what I tell people is it should be as big as you can make it. And
Right.
I tell people that, and it's not actually true. But I tell people that because, again, I know human emotion. Most people are going to try to start with less than what they should. So I just tell them it should be as big as you can make it. If somebody came to me and said, hey, I've got my maintenance fund up to $50,000, is that enough? I'd say that's more than enough, and you should probably stop now. There is a risk of having too much money. People don't think about this either.
Is there not enough money?
Yeah, most people start without enough money. And that's why I tell people as much as you can squeeze out. Because I know, again, I'm dealing with human nature, not math. The math is one thing. The math would tell you you should have $1 million, because then you could never fail, right? That's what the math would tell you. But I'll tell you this. Give people too much money to start a business and they'll make bigger mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's human nature. That's the difference. So at some point, if somebody comes to me and they've got a pretty decent sized pile of cash there, I'm going to tell them, stop. It's time to pull the trigger and actually get in business. More money is not going to make this less risky at this point. What that number is different for everybody. When I'm working with somebody directly, like in my coaching program or in the CMC, Those are the kind of things I dive into. I learn their personality and their risk tolerance, and I can kind of help them pick a number. If I have to put a random number
Right.
out
Oh, okay.
there, 25,000 is really, really nice. If you had that'd be pretty awesome, and I wouldn't need much more than that. 10,000 is doable. Here's the other thing we have to remember about this. This is an awesome business, and I mean that. You should be profitable in your first month.
Yeah.
If you're not, there was something really, really wrong with your business plan. You should have positive, honestly, I can say you should have positive cash flow in your first 2 weeks. The first time somebody pays you, you should be into positive cash flow almost immediately. That's unusual. There are lots of businesses, you might go a long, long time before you have positive cash flow.
Well, yeah, that's how, what we're doing is right now we're company drivers and we have to be owner operators. We're going to be moving to another company, so we're going to be leasing to them. So they have a minimum guarantee weekly rate. So
See,
we're hoping that, running numbers, everything sounds good. So
this business, we generate almost immediate positive cash flow. And if we have a good business model in place, I hate to even say this, but I say it just to make a point. If we have the right business model in place, I could start somebody with zero cash reserves. I hate to say that, and I don't want to see anybody do it, but the math, I could show you the math, and I could make it work.
yeah. I guess, and then one last question then is, we obviously moving over to this other company, we would be responsible for our own fuel. Like paying for the fuel. They do offer, I think, like every quarter or something, they refund you so much. Like they have it's like $1.60 fuel surcharge or what is it called? Like they guarantee that like the most we would be paying for fuel is $1.60 by the time it's all said and done. Is it worth signing up to that?
No.
That has the fuel card?
No. Oh, wait a minute. You broke up. Whatever they're doing to guarantee a fuel price, I don't want any part of it probably. Now, I would have to know more about the program, but on the surface, well, I'll give you an example. I was leased to FedEx for a long time. FedEx did not pay a fuel surcharge. Instead, they guaranteed we would never pay more than $1.25 a gallon for fuel. People thought that was awesome. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I got screwed because my fuel cost was already less than $1.25 a gallon because I got good fuel economy and I knew how to buy fuel. So I was losing money. They actually changed that, and while I still had trucks there, and went to paying a fuel surcharge, and my revenue went up significantly. So I don't like guaranteed fuel prices. Guaranteed fuel prices benefit the people who are doing the worst. They punish the people who are doing the best.
Well, that's what I was wondering because we talked to other drivers at this company too, and they said if they do their fuel right, they actually get reimbursed to where they're actually making money on their savings.
Correct.
Like I guess
Correct.
the company, like you don't pay more than $1.60, but if you do everything right, you can actually get money back. So that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, they're guaranteeing a fuel card. Yes, sign up for NASTC, absolutely. Not just for the fuel card, but for several other benefits you're going to like. They're guaranteeing a fuel cost of $1.60 a gallon. There are times when fuel is expensive enough, I can show you a fuel cost of $0.
Right.
And then actually revenue coming in from the fuel surcharge. But if you're in that program, you're just stuck at paying about $1.60 a gallon for fuel when I could possibly be paying $0.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So again, those are the programs that are there to save the worst people. We don't want to be a part of that group. We want to be up at the top, and you guys are going to be. I can tell already.
Yeah, we've been trying to plan everything for a while now. Finally got our experience in the move over and all that, so we're just waiting on applications to go through and all that, and we'll be ready to roll.
All right. Hey, Lee, call back again. I got to cut you loose. I am on a time limit today, and I got 2 more calls I got to get to. Let's go to Arizona. Justin, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
Good.
I might lose you in a second, but I'm interested in doing the coaching program.
Okay. Oh boy. Justin, you called that one. We lost you. Justin, let's see if we can get you back.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was going over my numbers the other day. Me and my girlfriend recently leased on with Landstar. We've been here since March. We've done, before this percentage split, the 35-65 split, our cost or our revenue per mile is $2.39 a mile. And after the split, it's calculated at $1.72 a mile. Can you still hear me, or did I lose you?
No, I can hear you. Let me give you just a little piece of advice. No big deal, but I've been dealing with Landstar contractors for years and years, and anybody else on a percentage contract. One of the things I tell people, really ignore that first number. It's not your money. It's never going to be your money. I don't even know why we calculated or talk about it. And I've had people say, oh, yeah, but you're not talking about the right. No, I am talking about the right number. The only number I care about is the one that flows into my bank account. I don't care what Landstar's making. I don't care what that other number is. It's meaningless to me. I always get the same percentage, so why don't I just ignore that top line number? It's just a waste of my time and energy. And I start with that number that comes to me.
Okay. All right. So I guess my other part of that, if I don't lose you before I get over the river over here on 40 going into California, is our cost and maintenance since we've got this truck in March is running about 40 cents a mile in fuel costs, and our fuel is in the upper 40s cents a mile.
Okay.
And all the other stuff is not really that much.
It's
it does
not.
add up, like the insurance.
Yeah, when you put it all together, it becomes a significant number. But most of the time, we should just be focused primarily on fuel and maintenance until we get those under control. Once we do, then we can go and work on that other stuff. There's some savings in there. But right now, a fuel cost in the 40s, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. That's very respectable. We talk about people getting into the 30s, but that's a stretch today. I mean, those are the top performers getting fuel costs down into the 30s. If you're in the 40s, I know people that are in the 80s. So 40's really good on fuel. 40 on maintenance is horrendous. We got to figure out if that's a short-term trend or there's really something going on here. And that might require some more digging. Oh, and we lost him. If you're listening, we have a coaching class today. You could actually sign up now and be in our coaching call this afternoon. And you're only committed for a month. So you're going to get 4 coaching calls for $75. And then you may have your problem solved by then. We probably would, honestly. And then you can choose to stay in the program or not. All right, I'm going to grab one more call. It looks like I see the dynamic duo. The Beckett's are standing by. I have minutes. Tony, make it quick. Tony.
Are you saying people are getting $1.40 a gallon today? What am I missing? Because I was supposed to ask how come nobody's ever talked about the fuel prices going down over the last month that I've been.
They have been
for it.
Slowly sliding. I hate to see that, but and here's why I hate to see it more than anything. Prices are supply and demand. When demand on fuel goes down, when prices on fuel go down, it's because demand went down, or OPEC is pumping more, or somebody is, but nobody's pumping more. If you look at the statistics, it's people are buying less. There's less and less demand for fuel. The cost goes down. That's not a good sign for our economy.
All right. I think I heard that somewhere. I just forgot it. And so nothing to do with the socio-political region.
No.
And for me, on that $1.60 a gallon that I was just talking about, that's just Landstar lease operators. What am I missing? I thought I was doing good at $2.93 3.
So it's not the price they're paying for the fuel. This isn't some kind of great discount program. What it is it is a calculation where the carrier adds revenue. The carrier pays you more
All right.
to
So,
get your
some
fuel price
lease operator
down,
BS.
or they sell fuel directly. So at FedEx, if I fueled on the yard itself, I only paid FedEx $1.25 a gallon for their fuel. They subsidized their fuel for me. If I bought fuel out on the road and fuel was $4 a gallon, they subsidized me to make it $1.25 a gallon. That's what a fuel surcharge does.
Okay, I get it.
But here's the thing. If my trucks are getting 9 miles to the gallon and the guy next to me at FedEx, his truck only gets 5 miles to the gallon, and they subsidize us both back to $1.25, they're giving him way more money than they gave me. And they'll say, but it's fair.
True.
You're both paying $1.25 a gallon for fuel. I don't like the word fair. I don't care that it's fair. It's not fair. I worked hard to get my fuel costs down. He didn't. I spent money to get my fuel costs down. He didn't. I spend time by going slower to get my fuel costs down. He didn't. And you're rewarding him and punishing me. And I'm the one doing the right stuff.
So nothing to do with these wars going on and the Cold War, social unrest. That has nothing to do with, well, or a little bit to do with the gas price.
I think it does have something to do with it. Yeah, it does. All of these things are factors. But the one thing I'm worried about is the trend has just been a slowly downward trend, and it looks like it has much more to do with supply and demand than anything. Just not as much worldwide demand for fuel.
Don't you think it'd be a good idea for any of these coaching candidates to be renting my truck?
Sure.
Like if they can get a real cheap, no strings attached, get access to a vehicle.
Tony, there's only one factor we got to work out here. How much am I getting paid to facilitate this?
Yeah, well, you'll get. Name your price. I mean,
because if you want this business model to work, you need me.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about that. The only question would be is if you have like both sides of the spectrum, like you have drivers and owner operators on different ends of the bargaining table, and you're coaching them both.
That's how I make my money. Just don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't, like right now, it's just you and I talking. Don't let anybody else know this is what I'm doing. Speaking of dynamic duo, guys.
Morning. Duo.
Is it a beautiful morning in Iowa today?
It really is.
Good.
It's been a beautiful week.
Good. Same here.
Yeah, it was a good weekend, really nice weekend in Huron, South Dakota. We were up there for the wheel jam with a lot of people in South Dakota.
Good.
Including S&B Transportation. Chad Hone was there. It was quite an event.
Was Jamie Hagan there? Do you know Jamie?
I recall hearing a name, Jamie, but I don't know about Jamie Hagan.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Joel version for Max. Jamie is like the fuel mileage superstar on Max, and I'm pretty sure Jamie lives in South Dakota. If I remember right. So I thought he might be there. Chad was there?
Chad showed up. He was talked into it. He's from South Dakota, so
I didn't know that.
To come back and explore his roots.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you have a good time?
Yeah. We had a great time. We had a good time was had by everybody, until actually late into the evening and early into the morning.
Wow, good stuff. Mike, where were you? Weren't
Yeah.
you doing something else?
I had to go to Nashville and do a couple of sessions for Idealease for their best practices meeting,
Ah, good.
and that was fun.
Yeah.
And then I was discussing the fact that we're coming up on another wedding anniversary in August, and what are we going to do with that, and contemplating it's the 58 years.
I was
66 to 24. Yeah, 58.
58 years, and
congratulations.
somebody asked me, can you remember the best time that, and I said, yeah, it was 59 years ago.
And I was.
Dottie doesn't listen to this podcast.
It's funny, Kevin, that you just said that. I was about to say, Mike, you just answered my other question. Before you said that, I was going to ask if Dottie was listening, but now I know she's not. I have my oldest brother. I'm the youngest of 7. My oldest sister, who's no longer with us, was 18 years older than I was. My oldest brother, who is still with us and very healthy, by the way, is 15 years older than I am, and he is coming up on his 53rd wedding anniversary.
3
Yeah.
years. Yep.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yep. And my one brother was married twice. My other brother was married 3 times.
Right.
I can top this easy. Not with number of times, and not me, but within my family. I have actually 2 kind of weird circumstance. People think it's weird. To me, it was just normal. But so being the youngest of 7, I was an uncle when I was 4. So I have a niece who's only 4 years younger than I am, and a bunch of nieces and nephews that are pretty darn close to my own age. But I had a brother who got married and then got divorced, and one of my other brothers married her.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Keeping it in the family.
And from day one, there was never a problem. They vacationed together. My family back in Ohio, they're all still back in Ohio. I'm the only one that left. They still get together all the time. They have for decades. I mean, this marriage thing happened a long, long time ago, but they're all still married.
That's healthy.
Yeah, and it's now another thing happened. This was when I was in the military. My mom died while I was in the military. And before I came back home again, my dad ended up with my mom's sister, my aunt.
Yeah, well,
we're a close family.
So it's,
yeah.
that didn't happen once, but twice.
Twice.
In the same family.
Yeah.
So that's impressive.
Yeah.
So that reminds me of the old joke. If a couple get married in Arkansas, move to D.C., and get a divorce, are they still brother and sister?
Exactly. Yeah. I knew that one was coming.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. From where I'm from, though, they would have said West Virginia.
West Virginia. Well,
Yeah.
you can pick a state.
Yeah, right.
It really doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, people are people.
They are.
Right.
That's true.
You have then, I mean, similarly to the Ohio-West Virginia rivalry there, you have heard that the Iowa stands for, as far as Arkansans are concerned, Iowan on way to Arkansas is whenever you see the plate, that's what is happening. As far as Arkansas is concerned.
I thought it meant idiot out walking around.
That really is what it means, but Arkansans don't see it that way.
I've always wondered why we don't pronounce it Arkansas.
There is a river down there that they make you pronounce Arkansas.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, we have that here. When people come out here to visit, they want to see. Let me see if I don't even know if I can say it wrong anymore. They always want to see the Willamette Valley.
Yes.
But here, they will be quick to tell you it's Willamette, not Willamette.
Willamette.
Willamette Valley. Yeah.
Right. I'm sure somewhere in Kansas there's a river that they insist you call the Kansas River.
And there's a town here in Iowa that they insist you call Nevada.
Nevada.
No
and
way.
Peru. P-E-R-U.
Yes.
Peru.
Yes.
There's a Jamaica, Iowa, but it's pronounced Jamaica.
Oh, got it. Okay. That makes sense. I'm not sure why, but there's a call here, and I'm assuming they want to talk to you guys.
Why would somebody call?
I
this
don't
number?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, that's strange. Well, you have yourself a great day, buddy.
All right, you guys
All
get
right.
to work. Thanks.
All
All
right,
right,
bye.
thank you. Thanks for everything. All right, so this is the Rolling Toe Show with Mike and Kevin.
Is that what this is?
That's what this is. But that actually, this is the first moment of the Rolling Toe Show with Mike and Kevin Beckett. Everything that preceded this is actually Trucking Business and Beyond. If you get the podcast, this is where the Rolling Toe starts, and the portion before this is actually
They won't include it in the
they
recording.
won't include that.
Boy, am I disappointed.
Well, but you get so that it draws you in. You got to go listen to the Trucking Business and Beyond now if you want to hear.
Well, that means that inappropriate